Stayed a little bigger than me, but
We were very well received at the parade.
Can you get that one?
thank you.
Yeah, I'm getting one this weekend. I refuse to do it.
I visited the guy at Mike the Barber's,
I was gonna say.
Ernest, he's nice.
Walk in or there?
I happened to walk in, I saw somebody walk out, but he was all there.
All right, we're
Nice
there.
guy.
Everybody, oh, my watch doesn't say
Former
7.
Marine.
Do you? Okay. Everybody ready?
Yeah, ready.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the July meeting of the Warren Town Council. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next we have the period of public comment, which is for things that are not on the agenda that you would like to bring to the town council. We can't really take any action on these items today, but this is the first thing we do here. Anyone would like to speak, please come forward. Yep, please. State your name, tell us what you,
Hi, Christopher Souza. It's the first meeting I've been to, probably a long time, but I wasn't sure if any projects or jobs were on the agendas, and apparently I didn't see it under the plan and development. But my yard, I just sent in some permits from the DM that got mailed to me. I guess they're pulling permits from the town to do some drainage work on Central and Warren Boulevard. So I want to see if there was any information on the status of that and see, when the diggings are gonna start. I'm sure you're aware of it, Joe,
Took us 30 years to get that going.
Yeah, I know Bob's been on top of it. He's been pretty good with getting back to me and stuff. And I know he was waiting. He wasn't gonna send them back to the DM until he collected all the applications that got sent out to the neighbors,
I'm not aware of the
yeah,
official
I would
timeline.
say this,
They all of the people that needed to submit an permit application have submitted those. given those to Fuss O'Neill, those have been submitted to DEM.
Good.
Initially,
Good, yeah.
we thought we could go through an expedited
Yeah.
permitting process. DEM came back and wanted something more. So right now, we're calling DEM.
Do we have any idea of a time frame?
I don't, but I mean,
Okay, yeah. It's in the works, as you can see, yeah.
It's officially finally
Yeah.
Yeah,
more than just
yeah,
conversation.
you're right, yeah,
It's happening.
okay. Then, maybe before they do step foot in the properties, they'll, let us know, I'm
yeah,
assuming.
we'll definitely.
Or what, I don't even know what the actual finished plan was, like what the actual, because I know there's three options at the time, there's three options you tell
That's
us.
what DEM will tell us
That's
based on the application. I've talked to Brian Miller, or he can be correct, he may be himself. So our goal is to get this.
And Bob, we'll keep you informed, and before we start, obviously, we're gonna notify the people before we go on their property.
Maybe we should send DEM a letter and request if they want to come here. If there's a big enough interest. I mean, no, I mean to talk to us.
I don't think that, I mean, they've done their site visits, we've had it flagged. I mean,
Yeah, right, it's
Just
finished.
going through their.
Well, do they-
process.
So do they know what the finished outcome, like the plan?
They
was
have
the option?
three options.
Yeah.
They're gonna let us.
Oh, okay, so they
I
have.
would like to know.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
like
I-
to know.
Yeah,
I think it would,
DM to do that, I can do that with Fuss, I can do that in the next meeting.
okay, that would be great
Yeah.
to bring us up to speed. I mean, because it's been such a long process and it's affected so many people over there. I'd like to get a update.
Give us a presentation.
Yeah.
Next month. So next month, he's gonna present. Now, if we don't have the final by that time, he'll show us what all three plans are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way we'll see. If we have a decision from DEM, then we'll do that. If not, at least we'll go over the three options. So you'll see
Okay,
what's
cool.
going
Yeah,
on.
that seems fair enough, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, great, thanks.
all right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay,
Mr. President, if I may just
absolutely.
take a quick minute. I would just like to personally thank the two banner carriers that carried the banner for us. Unfortunately, they're not able to attend our meeting, so I think we'll do something for them next month's meeting. Matthew Thibodeau and Lily De Silvera stepped up on the 4th of July at the last minute to take the banner. And I would also like to personally thank Camille from the 4th of July Committee, all the communication, all the outreach she did to make it very seamless for us to participate in the parade. I wanted to just say personally, thank you. So, that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we go to interviews. We have the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Directors. We have two positions available. I do not see any applicants. We have the Economic Development Board. We have one alternate position available. I do not see any applicants. We have the Planning Board, one position available. We do not have any applicants. We have the Tax Board of Assessment Review, one position available. We do not have any applicants. Obviously, we're going to try to keep advertising this on the website, but anybody out there in TV land that's watching, please get active in the community. We need your help. Everybody contributes a little and it all works much better. So please, if anybody's got some time or some expertise they can lend to one of these boards, it would be great if you could come in and help us out. Okay, next we have the acceptance of the minutes. First, we have the May 10th, 2012 amended executive session minutes.
Motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, next we have the acceptance of minutes from the June 14th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We have P1. Does anybody have a motion on the consent agenda?
Eagle.
No.
For a poll.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next we're moving on to the ordinances. Offenses and miscellaneous provisions. This is the first reading. This is for the cannabis in public places, etc. We did get an email from from a citizen who wanted to speak on that matter, and I will read it into the record, and then we'll discuss this, then I'll read that into the record as part of the public part. Anything from the council?
No.
No, this is pretty much just mirrored on the tobacco use.
I do, you're asking if we have questions about
Yeah.
this ordinance? I do.
Yes.
I have questions about, kind of more about cigarettes and what is legal and not legal with cigarettes, and a little clarification on what public and what is public property way in place, because if we're going to have ordinance language on cannabis, I'd like to be very clear about what we're doing about cigarettes and what the enforcement is, if this is the right time to
So
ask that.
cigarettes is,
I know
I think
this
you want
isn't,
to take it or you want to? Yeah, tobacco is,
It's the Workplace Safety Act.
Yep.
Basically regulates the use of tobacco products indoors.
Mhm.
There has been an expansion of that to extend that to public parks, athletic facilities, things of that nature. The ordinance that you have before it melds that with the ordinance that regulates the public consumption of alcohol. So that's what you're looking at there. I will say that,
Of cannabis,
what's that?
of cannabis. You
Yeah,
said of
correct.
alcohol, yeah.
You know,
well, to mirror.
mirrors
to mirror what
Oh, it mirrors it,
alcohol-
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
It kind of, to me, what the ordinance does, is it combines what you have for tobacco use outdoors and what you have for alcohol, public consumption of alcohol. It's kind of melded together in this ordinance. I will tell you that we just received late some guidance from these towns, a fuller definition of a public place, which unfortunately we didn't have time to get to the council. The advice from them being that you should have a set definition of public places.
I have a question. Why not just say only in private? I mean, according to this, it's a public place, public way, any public property. So that's all public. So you can't smoke or vape in any public setting. So why not just say you can only do it in private? Wouldn't that cover it more aptly than, because according to the definition, you can't do it anywhere. Everything's public, right? If you're not private. Am I missing something?
The only concern that I have on that is the definition. How would you define private?
Yeah,
Just
sitting
like
on
you
your,
have to, just like you have to define the public space, you have to define private space.
sitting on your porch right on Main Street would be public, no, you're not really private. So they could,
But according to this,
well, you could sit on your porch,
You can sit on your porch,
but you
right?
can't come into the street. But in
Right,
private,
so-
you gotta go in your house.
Well, private is your private property. Private is your own private property.
I got to tell you, I'm a little hesitant to say that because I don't,
I'm just,
I understand your point.
it
That,
seems convoluted, that's all.
well, it's a good, you're making a good logical point. But the ordinances that you have now define those public places. And I think that's actually the way to go. That's what I think you ought to do here.
so the reason I'm asking this is it legal to walk down a street, a
No.
public way, smoking a cigarette?
Yes.
So but it is not legal to smoke a cigarette, say at Burrs Hill Park or at the town beach?
Correct.
That's
Correct.
correct, yes.
And is that enforced? Do you ever enforce people, or do you ever approach people who are smoking cigarettes in either the public parks, Jane Mills Park, Burrs Hill Park, the beach? Is that being enforced? I'm just getting to that point where if we are not enforcing what we're already doing, and this is no disrespect at all, do we want to add something to it that we're not going to be enforcing either, or place more burden on enforcement?
I'm looking at the Parks and Recreation Director and she's nodding her head. Yes, it is enforced. If you would like to hear from Tara.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
If I'm there and I see something, I'm not there.
But with this in place, and I don't want to say it's lack of enforcement, but if it becomes an issue, how many complaints have we got from people smoking cigarettes on the beach? Okay, so if it does become a problem, we have the ordinance on the books where now we can enforce it. Whereas if we didn't have this ordinance, even if we got a complaint, there wouldn't be anything the police could do. So, you know, and I don't want to see all our police officers tied up down Warrentown Beach looking for cigarette butts.
Exactly. I mean, although I would prefer not to be in the vicinity of a person smoking a cigarette.
I think for this. Yeah, you gotta call.
Correct.
But according to this, if this goes forward, it would be lawful for me to, which I don't do, smoke a bone walking down Water Street.
No,
No,
that's a public way.
no.
But you could,
Alcohol and cannabis say public way. Cigarettes do not. Cigarettes
Okay,
say parks,
that's-
buildings, yeah.
that makes it clear. That makes it
Okay.
very clear.
Can I go back again? I'm sorry to
Absolutely.
harp on this, but so instead of saying in a public place, a public way, or upon any public property, why don't we just say in public?
I'd like the definition. I think that
So-
the
I
more
mean,
you,
because those three
I
things
think
are
the more you
redundant.
stretch it out, the easier it is for Anthony to,
But aren't they redundant?
to take-
I mean,
Yeah, but it's a redundancy, Tony, and I don't mean to take this out of your wheelhouse.
Go ahead.
This stems from legal cases that have been before the courts before. That's why these definitions get so down into the weeds, that they want to make sure they cover every.
No pun
single way.
intended.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so that's why you have the redundancy. And you're not going to
So
change it.
you
right?
also said there's something that came to you late that, to define this, so we're waiting on that as well.
The suggestion, we didn't have time to incorporate it into to this meeting, but the advice from the league is to really drill down and define the public rights and ways. You know, I have to say that my colleagues on the defense bar are very creative on it, and I think if it's a broad statement, can only consume in private or any public place, you know, they'll start punching holes in that stuff instead of if it's, I agree with Councilman Kalenda, if you have a set definition, it makes it a bit easier.
So then if there is a private residence that is on abuts a sidewalk that is a public way, is it true that like 3 feet from the facade of that building is considered part of the residence?
So
No,
right-of-ways and
it's going to depend
sidewalks.
where the property line is. Some
Yeah.
buildings don't have any setbacks.
Yeah.
Some buildings have 5 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot setbacks. The setback is still your property. But if you have a building that sits right on Main Street without any setback, it comes right out to the curb, you can sit on your porch and smoke. That's private. As soon as you step off your porch onto that sidewalk, that's the public way. You can't smoke it there.
Okay.
Was that correct?
Yes.
Thanks.
So following the alcohol, I think is the safest course of action that we can do, whatever ordinance that we decide. So
Any other questions?
that's my input.
I actually have a question.
Oh,
Can you tell us your name?
If the matter is to proceed to the second reading, the council object to incorporation suggested language from the trust as to the league as to a better definition of a public way, so that debate can focus on that at second reading.
Before we get to a vote on that, is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on this ordinance? Please come forward and state your name.
My name is James Carter. I live at 492 Water Street, Warren, Rhode Island. In defense and speaking on this issue, I've seen since they've legalized marijuana, down at the beach, there are people down there smoking marijuana, children running around. It's a problem. It's a big problem. And there's no enforcement, and there's no ordinance to enforce. So state makes it legal, but, you know, if you have kids down at the beach playing on a swing, is it okay for some?
It's a little old to be on swings right
No,
now.
no, you know what I'm saying? And is it okay for somebody to be smoking marijuana in front of them?
Jim, I think we just
You know
addressed
what I'm
that.
saying?
Yeah,
I think we
without
addressed
just,
it.
actually
But it's a
today,
problem.
as of today, right
Yeah,
now,
way to
as
enforce
of today, right now, it is legal for them to do that. This ordinance will prohibit
Yeah.
them from doing it. Yep, Yep.
So.
Good. Yep.
Passage of the ordinance.
Yep.
Language would be,
Okay, and I do, anyone else from the public that's here? I do have an email that was sent to the town council. And basically it states, if the town plans to ban cannabis smoking on the basis of it being hazardous to non-smokers, please expand that ordinance to include cigarettes, cigars, and pipes as well. It is specific only to cannabis smoking, then please consider me opposed, as there are many people for whom cannabis is medicinal, whereas that cannot be said about anyone using tobacco. Please consider that there are many people under 21 who are military veterans for whom cannabis is providing relief from combat wounds, etc. Thank you for your attention and consideration. Sincerely, Joyce Katzberg. Okay, so now, do we have a motion to send this to second reading with the changes recommended by the solicitor?
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, P1 we already took care of. Now we're on to P2. This is a request for a tattoo license from Electric Body Art. Please come forward.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Morning. Good. How are you?
Well, thank you.
I am looking to open up a tattoo shop slash healing studio slash art studio right down the street from here. I want to do paint classes, paint and tea nights. I've been a tattoo artist for 8 years now. It's been my full-time job for 6. And I think it's time to expand. I have a big clientele and I'm in Warwick right now and it's an hour from my house. And all of my clientele is here. So can it just make sense?
Which building is for? Is
that the handkerchief factory?
Oh, no, that's this way. Yeah. Just spin them up here this way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, have me a little. So,
Yeah.
Dave, Sequina.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Oh,
Yep.
thanks. Yeah.
Any questions from the council?
When you do the paint classes, can it be paint by numbers so I can come?
I actually have a plan for that.
Perfect. Yeah, it needs to
Yes.
be 101 paint for dummies and all.
I do
Thank you.
portraits and
Alright.
paint
Yeah.
human portraits, pet portraits, and I have a plan to make it easy for people to make like a realistic portrait. Make it, it'd be fun.
I would ask, how far along are you in negotiating a lease in that space?
I'm already in the lease.
Okay,
Yeah, so we made the lease to fit the
Conditional on
stipulations.
whether or not you got approval.
Exactly,
Yeah.
thank you.
I was going to help you there, but thank you.
No, you're welcome. sir. Thank you.
So my question being, how much improvement will be done to that space? Will the awning be changed? Will the window be repaired? Will there be a
Yes.
new sort, how different will that space be? It's a lot of big window,
Yes.
and I would imagine you want some privacy or a different aesthetic.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's all yellow in there. Not so much anymore because we already started painting. I plan on putting curtains. A lot of that front area is going to be the waiting room, and the back half of the area is where I'm going to have artists and stuff. So there'll be a curtain, and it'll be definitely private for everybody. Yeah, and the painting of the building on the outside definitely needs to be done. We've already started fixing the walls on the inside. There's a sink that I'm going to put in the back room, but there's really not too much that needs to be done to the floors or any of like the structure of the building, which is
Are
great.
you leaning to the side grant, or is that on Water Street only?
It's,
No, he's
that's for
got-
the
yeah.
whole town, but it's only for businesses that were open during the pandemic. never seems to end. So maybe you'll qualify for it in a couple of years. No, I was wondering how the aesthetic of that space being on Main Street will be hopefully improved. And you have all of your appropriate health department permits and everything.
Yeah, so I've already got my license. I've been licensed for a long time. I need to be CPR certified, bloodborne pathogen certified, and I always get first aid certified anyways, just because it's part of the job. So do that yearly. And I've been working with blood and people passing out for so long. I just know all of the signs. So, yeah.
Maybe you
Motion
can
to
volunteer
approve.
with our fire department.
Any comment from police and fire? Chiefs? Okay. Okay, just, yeah, just make sure you're gonna need an inspection from the fire chief. We have a motion to approve,
And I'll second it.
and we have a second. All in favor?
Department of Health license, not only you, but space itself.
Yeah.
Correct, yes.
Rigorous.
But
Yep.
she's already licensed. so
Motion
she
to
could be-
approve contingent upon all
Yeah.
licenses and agreements
Okay.
needed in the state of Rhode Island to perform everything you want to do.
That's part, this is actually part of getting the licensing. I wouldn't be able to be in that space if I didn't get the Rhode Island Department of Health licensing in general. People would be like tattooing in like a space that, yeah, it would.
Yep.
Yeah, subject to getting license to do.
Clerk will issue it, yep.
Perfect.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve pending full qualification, then to be issued by the clerk. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Best
Thank you
of
so
luck
much.
to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have P3. This is for a yearly entertainment license from Wonder Corps Holding. Chris Singh, 99 Water Street. Please come down.
Hi, guys.
Good evening.
Ladies.
How are you?
Good.
So run down on what you're looking to do.
So we have an office space adjacent to my other business within 99 Water Street next to the brew pub. And the office space, we already have an open area that we actually, some of my employees from In Your Ear, which is directly next door, have already used as a practice space. We would like to be able to occasionally have live music within the space. Private, we're anticipating that it will be private events only at this point. We have 1,100 square feet and an additional 630 square feet. And the reason I mentioned my employees using the space as a practice space is that the noise can be heard in your ear, but it cannot be heard outside the building. We have a gym next door that makes more noise than we do. And it's part of our business plan as a music production company to occasionally bring in artists to perform for groups of people.
Sounds good.
Questions?
You answered my question, but it's indoor space and the music can't be heard outside.
Yeah, actually, let me distribute this. Here's a diagram of the actual space. In Your Ear is on the front side facing the parking lot. And so while it can be heard within In Your Ear, it might be audible out towards the river, but there's nothing on that side of the building. Plus, if you look at the diagram, there are office rooms. There are 3 offices, one of which is mine. There's a conference room and another office. And then that large space in the middle is where the performance area would be.
And the reason I bring it up is that there's been other businesses on Water Street that have had to go through some rigorous trials of sound and
Right.
I think you're aware of some of this and carrying across the river. So
Correct.
that's my concern. I think it's a wonderful thing we're doing. I probably
Obviously,
attend
by
myself.
comparison, this is all contained. None of this is outdoors. None of this is be at a deck area with speakers, et cetera. It's all internal. And we've already had my own employees playing there. And again, no concern from anyone.
Yep, we're gonna
Including
need
our
the-
landlords.
We're gonna need the fire chief to do his inspection.
Yep.
Police chief, if you have any comment or, okay.
Motion to approve contingent on the fire inspection and any other licenses you may need.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay, next we have P4. This is a request to use the Warrentown Beach on Sunday mornings from July 17th to August 28th for free yoga instruction.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jeff Brown. I am a avid yoga student and teacher. And if any of you recall the history, there was a yoga studio here in town, Shrine Here in Yoga, that conducted yoga classes on Sunday mornings on the town beach for many years. And it was actually voted best free experience on the East Bay in Rhode Island Monthly. That studio was owned by Paula Anderson. She's been a good friend and mentor of mine. 3 years ago, when I became a certified yoga instructor, it's something I did with my 17-year-old daughter. We trained in Bristol with a program that's run actually by a town resident here, Jane Viscolosi. We had to do some free yoga classes, and it was at the end of the beginning of the pandemic. So we ended up trying to figure out a place to do it. We started in our backyard, and we ended up at the Police Cove Park in Barrington. And we taught, we've actually been teaching, this is our third year. We teach free yoga classes. One of you had mentioned the job openings, and you mentioned in the town, and you mentioned community. Let's do something. And that was really part of the spirit of hosting these free yoga classes for the public. It's all level, all ages. I actually had a couple show up the first year that were probably pushing 90 years of age. And they showed up after we had distributed the waivers that we have everybody sign. So it was a little bit of a scary thing. What do? Do you stop the class or what? On that note, I am insured. And the way I do this in the town, they are a named policy holder, beneficiary, if you will, but they're a payee, a lost payee, I'm sorry, for $1 million. The town required that. The town actually waived the fee, the application fee to use the park. So I'm looking to do the same thing. I have several other instructors. They all volunteer, as well as myself, to teach in the town of Barrington. And we didn't want to have it limited just to that site when there's such a beautiful site here in this town. We recently changed the name of our group from Barrington Park Yoga to East Bay Park Yoga. And our hope is to simply have this yoga program be more inclusive. There's obviously a stigma of the town of Barrington being a little bit on the exclusive side. That's the exact opposite of what yoga truly is. So we changed the branding of it a little bit. Sometimes we get 25 people, sometimes it's 5. In the summertime, I find most people want to do it first thing in the morning. So my objective would be to do it at 7 a.m. We never charge anything. We never promote anything. And that's what we're looking to do. As simple as that for the summer months.
Any questions from the council?
Everyone who shows up is welcome.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
I mean-
No discrimination whatsoever. Like I said, age, it just doesn't matter. And that's really, truly the nature of what yoga is.
Nice.
And again, there's never a cost.
What may be an issue is we have the beach parking passes. If they're Warren residents, they may possibly already have the beach passes.
So our beach hours of operation, so I see our Parks and Recreation Director. Give us some input, please, Tara. And that's okay?
Okay.
So as long as they're vacant by 9 a.m.? Okay.
Good.
We only have a limited number of spaces there, and we've had numerous discussions by residents of, availability and stuff, so. But, yeah, okay.
Anthony, have you seen the insurance waiver yet?
No, I haven't.
Motion to approve contingent on insurance agreements and any other requirements that may be needed between now and when you get up and going. But I don't see anything happening.
And I'll second it, yeah.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Hi. Good luck, Jeff.
to you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. DeSisto, do you want the
You must know
clerk's
my wife.
office or straight to you? Mr. Brown, if you can,
Yeah.
if you can submit the insurance to
To
the
the
clerk's
clerk, and
office,
she'll
they'll
get
get
it
it
to the
to.
solicitor. Okay. All right, next on the agenda, we have request for a mobile food establishment from Joey V's Steak and Cheese.
There we go. Big samples. No samples?
Yeah. Good, thank you. I'm an East Providence resident, and I'm looking to expand into Warren. I also have a permit in Providence and Pawtucket. We did the PVD Fest. Last week we did Piercefield fireworks. We're getting pretty successful, and I know you guys have a couple of events here that we'd like to attend. So we're kind of branching this way a little bit. It's a 30-foot food truck. It has, I have a license from DBR. I have a certification from the fire marshal. I have health department certification. I have tax ID. So everything's, I guess I don't know what else to say.
No, you're good, you're good. I know our solicitor was raving about the steak
Well, it's the
sandwich.
best steak and cheese in Rhode Island. period.
Yeah, he agrees with you. He agrees with
You need to bring.
you. Yeah.
I've had a couple requests. I just added vegan burgers, so give me a break.
Any other questions from the council?
Motion approved.
Yeah.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck to you.
Okay, now we're up to correspondence. We have several correspondence. We're gonna pull one out to read into the record just to make sure that they know that we are listening to them. Does anyone else want to pull anything out of correspondence? We have a resignation from the Warren Arts and Cultural Commission for Elwood Donnelly. I would like to send him a letter thanking him for his service.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, and we would also like to advertise the open position.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Barrington. Get to it. Resolution.
What's the status on the resolution for the full funding for the transportation aid? Do we have any updates on that? I mean, this is like the third or fourth time they're, taking a swing at this, but is there any traction?
I have not heard of any action on that front. It's been requested, you're right, every year it's requested and it has not been included to date.
And so we do have a letter from James Carter, and the subject is the issues at the Warrentown Beach. Number one is beach parking and speed enforcement of public safety. Number two is out-of-town users leaving their trash after use. Number three is adult supervision during the day. Number four is collections of fees for beach use. And number five is police presence and enforcement. These are some of the issues that he would like to address. Based on that, I believe that we did meet with the town manager, and we have a plan in place to investigate these complaints. And we're gonna look into it, and next month we should have some answers for you. Okay. All right, so moving along to old business. Discussion and action on proposed ballot language to the Warrentown Charter. That was in front of us when we came in. Does anyone have any issues with the wording of the ballot items?
I have a question, we have a new version here. What is different on this version from the other? Number 8? Yes. Okay.
Any other issues?
No, I'm good.
So we have a motion to forward this to the Secretary of State for approval.
So moved. Oh, he's got a question.
I have to tell you that other experiences that I've had, with other, not more. Yeah, this is what they'll have a lot of material on this. They'll have their ability to take a look at everything, but take the vote. This is a language. So that's why we've taken the additional step that we've asked you. Because essentially it's the town council that gets to say what goes on the ballot and charter. Once you vote to approve this language, go to the Board of Canvassers to be certified, then to the Secretary of State. That allows for as many eyes as possible. Make this, make sure that the language not only state law, but it's also enough for a see.
Should we read all of these tonight just to make sure? And I think,
Well, the only one that there was an issue with that has changed is number 8. I had read all the other ones before.
I mean, should we read them into the record? Should we make this? I mean, this is, other than this time right here.
If they're already in the record, in
Right.
that they're in your packet. This is just an opportunity for town council to make any suggestions, language. You will note that there were more changes to the charter, there was consolidation, is something that the Secretary of State encourages. So that not too many questions, neighboring areas. Last time the charter was amended, they chopped up so many questions and big protests by voters that felt long and we have it with that particular election. We felt, Sandy and I, going through this debate, that kept the subject matter where it should be, and that the language is precise enough, and 20 questions should be okay. There were a lot of proposed changes, not only proposed to.
Could we, Mr. President, could we make a recommendation that there be maybe a tab on the website or something, explanation of charter questions? I would imagine our local paper
Well, doesn't,
will.
on the ballot, it comes with an explanation as well, doesn't it? Yeah, right on the ballot, on the side of it, it explains basically, this is
But-
the wording, but. it
No, I
explains
know.
What the charter, what the change does.
I realize, but in advance of that.
Oh, yeah.
So people, I think people might actually want to, review these prior to going to the polling place.
Anthony, when do we get now who puts the explanation in? Is it the Secretary of State?
But I'm not aware of it.
I thought when you read the ballot.
Yeah, no,
There's none of it.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah, this is it, which is why I would suggest that we do something like, here's the new language, maybe an example of what it means, or just some explanation of what the change actually is.
I mean, if I'm reading it, I don't see any that are not very plain.
I agree with.
The town council members should serve 2-year terms without term limits, beginning with the 2024 town council election. How the hell do you have to explain that?
Because people might not even know that there's already, that there are 4-year terms. I mean, having.
But if they don't know there's already 4-year terms, then why is it going to affect that they care if there's 2-year terms?
I just think people reading through, I agree with Councilman Cronin that if we could get some explanation out up front before the election somehow, then it would be helpful for people reading through this. We sat through all of it.
Right.
We're very familiar with this, but some people aren't. And I think that it would be helpful to get, so they understand why we're making the change that we're making.
So you guys agree with me?
No,
we
they
should-
don't want to read it into the
We
record.
should-
They
we
wanna
should
create-
read
they wanna
this
create
now.
A separate page with an explanation. after
Right, we
each
should read this now.
Charter issue.
Right, we should read them now, and we should also make something public so that it's not just at election day.
Oh, yeah, I have nothing.
4 months
no problem
leading
making
up,
this
3
public.
months.
It's just,
Hold
I
on,
don't
Joe.
know.
Before you get to the reading, and it's, I agree, there has to be a kind of a public education campaign on this. Sandy is planning to have the newspaper. Sandy, why don't you say?
What I'm going to do is, once it gets approved by the state, all the questions, I am going to send it to 3 questions every week to the paper. So everybody gets a chance to see 3 at a time, not all 20, 3 at a time, so they can see it. If they have any questions, they can always call the clerk's office or whatever.
That's great.
So this way they have a chance to read it. They can mark on it or whatever.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's really helpful. And maybe that bit of information can just get posted on the website so people can
Right.
refer back to it for those who may have recycled their paper or forgotten. Just all of the information we could get out there so people make informed decisions.
Plus we'll also have like copies of like the ballot, so they can, it'll be just like a kind of like a draft. That
Mhm.
They can go and do it before they even go vote.
And actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this on the Secretary of State's website? When you click on the agenda and you click on charter changes, this is right there. They can click on that link and they'll be able to see this exact document that we're holding.
Oh, yeah.
Once the changes here.
Yeah, so.
And that's not question one. That is, shall the town charter be amended to correct all Roman numerals Arabic? I'm thinking that you might want to make it Arabic numbers
Yeah.
throughout the whole chart.
Arabic
Yeah,
numeral.
the whole charter being in Arabic. is what-
Just the word numbers added.
Well, actually, I think that the proper thing is just but Arabic numbers.
Exactly.
I think.
We weren't gonna do,
You can write the explanation for that.
You want that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I do, because I just think it's.
So moved.
second,
Okay, so we have a motion to change.
add the word.
Charter Amendment 1, add the word numbers after Arabic. Forward this to the clerk to get to the Board of Tax Assessors and then to the Secretary of State for approval. And once it's approved for the town clerk to publish the questions in the paper as she described.
This goes to the tax assessor?
Oh, it goes to the Board of Canvass.
Isn't that what I said? I said tax assessor?
Yeah, I was just,
I meant the, yeah, Board of
That's
Canvass.
a requirement, not only the state, but also Secretary of State.
Yeah.
That the Board of Canvass is certified that it is. But I do think it's important for the council to put the language.
But yeah, I meant.
so what do you mean, we should read this?
No,
Yeah, maybe not, but it doesn't look okay.
Well, we just.
Yeah.
read it, Review it. Yeah, reading it into the record's not gonna
That's-
change it.
that's
Do we
just-
need to go to a second reading for this?
no, this is just, if we approve this, it goes to Sandy, she sends it to the Board of Canvases.
Yep.
And then it goes to the state. Okay, then it goes to the state. If the state approves it, comes back, and at that point, she's gonna start putting them into the.
That's correct, yes.
I've read it and I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. OB2, statutory ballot language for
cannabis.
retail cannabis licenses. And the question reads, shall new cannabis-related licenses for businesses involved in the cultivation, manufacture, laboratory testing, and for the retail sale of adult correctional use cannabis be issued in the town of Warren? That is going to be going on to the ballot for a yes or no, and if the town votes to deny it, then we don't need to make any changes. If they approve it, then we would probably need to amend our zoning ordinance to include this type of business.
That's correct, yes. And your licensing.
And not licensing ordinance. And this is basically required by the state to have this voted on.
The
correct?
language that you see here is in the statute itself. And you can't use it.
Okay.
And it's understood that 21 or older. 21 or older, I mean, I know it doesn't say it in this, but it's understood that you need to be at the age of 21 to purchase cannabis.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's in the statute. I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not asking that, there's no action needed on this.
Well, we just have to approve this the same, it's got to go to the same process because it's going to be on the ballot.
What the, yeah, that's correct. What the statute says is if the town does not have the referendum at this election, then the licensing goes in. A town council can't say, no, we don't want this. That decision has to be made by the voters. So some, but not all towns in cities are going to do, some cities in there just say we want it.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next, we have new business. This is discussion and action regarding A, the town's affordable housing plans and goals, including the status and the 10% requirement, and public discussion of the current comprehensive plan, affordable housing components.
Mr. President, I'll take it from here, and I appreciate Councilmember Cronin requesting that this be on the agenda. Affordable housing is a critical issue, not just in Warren, but throughout the state, throughout the country. Every gubernatorial candidate has some kind of plan for affordable housing. I'll editorialize this for a nanosecond and say none of them are realistic. So in Rhode Island General Law 4553 is the Low Moderate Income Housing Act. That requires an adopted affordable housing plan. We do not have one. And that requires that 10% of year-round housing be restricted for minimum years. Sure that I think it's only 6 communities in Rhode Island that have that 10%. I will not editorialize. I will share this with you that people have said, no one knows how this came up. My neighbor across the street used to be the head of statewide planning and was responsible for this 10%. And I asked him, how did this come up? He said, well, the 10% was just an arbitrary gap for a number. I gave him a 10% number. And so we're stuck with this. So where do we stand meeting that 10%? So in terms of deed restricted units, we had 226 in 2020. We had 213 in 2021. That's because of the Boston. So our deed restricted units are primarily Kitchener Village, senior housing.
Bob, does the Section 8 vouchers counts towards that, doesn't it? No, not anymore.
Those are not deed restricted.
Okay.
You can take those vouchers. The state overall is at 8.3%. We will never meet the 10% requirement unless we decide that we want to build a complex that's 30% affordable to make up what the deficit is.
What's that 10%? 3,500? I mean, 350? Does it go by dwelling or population?
It's based on the number of year-round residential units that you have. Not summer cottage units, but nobody has those anymore. It's just an archaic, unachievable goal.
So our number would be about 3,000, correct? Somewhere around there?
Well,
No, we would need 350, I think. right?
Yeah, no, because we have, yeah.
10%. He's
No, we-
asking,
we-
so the problem with that methodology is this. So we've got two projects one project that was just approved as a comprehensive. There are 15 units. 4 of those are deed restricted. We went backwards because we just added another 11 units to the inventory. So you will never, if you just keep piecemealing how you approach this, you will never get to the 10%. Communities don't want to create projects that said everyone in here is an affordable house. That's a step back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s where we have projects. So the legislature this year said that they took a lot of forward steps with respect to affordable housing. Personally, I disagree. We haven't attacked this problem at all. And if we look in terms of what cost burden households are, if you're spending more than 30% of your income on housing, your house burden, and your housing cost burden. So in 2020, we look at the number of people that are cost burden. We have 4,800 plus households total in the town of Warren. Almost half of them are clustered. Number of households that are below 80% of area median income, 2,200. These are very sobering numbers. Lost 3% of our housing stock. The median income in Warren in 2021 is 59,000. Saw a 15% increase from 2020 to 2021 and what the median single household, the value of a property was. So the income needed to afford a single family home in Warren, $94,901. Income required to rent a two-bedroom, which is at 1973, 78,920. We've already established that the median income. These are HUD's income limits. You're at 30% of median income. Look at it, very low, 34, low income, 55. We're hiring first year police officers. They qualify at low income. So, I know that you've got correspondence from someone from public comment that was offended that we talk about workforce housing. When we talk about housing on Medicom, we're talking about all different types of housing. Workforce housing is first year police officers, teachers, people that are valuable to this community. We know that we have EMTs that can't live in this community, more than 50,000 other areas that qualify for affordable housing. But I think there's a stigma about what affordable housing is. We are very close to having almost half the population of this town statistically qualified for affordable housing. I had an opportunity in December of last year to speak before Representative Speakman's special legislative committee on low moderate income housing. Senate, a number of the things that we're doing, everyone there, look at the tape. Buy and invented penicillin in terms of all the things that we're doing. None of those things got incorporated in any legislation that got passed. What we're looking at is, I've talked to you about this before, in terms of what we can do along the Medicom corridor in terms of zoning, upzoning, creating other opportunities for housing. Moving forward with that comprehensive plan. Adopting the form-based code, one of the things that we're including in the form-based code, which will be embedded in the zoning ordinance, is that there be a requirement for a percentage of any developments that are approved have workforce housing, affordable housing, whatever definition we want to put on this. If a developer wanted additional density, then offer them the opportunity to either give us more units of affordable housing or make a financial contribution to our affordable housing. That we can reinvest that money for the second and third improvements in the downtown area. I've shared this slide with you before. The advantage of the form-based code for developers, it's predictable, it's an expedited approval process. We've been getting people from around the country talking to us about markets of Medicom in terms of how that this is being done nowhere else in the country. That infrastructure manager that now said, Lieutenant Governor a couple of weeks ago at the Power Place Farm, so other communities they should be talking more. This is but including all of this in the comprehensive plan, it hits all of the required elements: economic development, housing, transportation, land use. We've identified, and not all of these sites will develop the way that we're suggesting they are, but certainly the Job Lot Plaza has the most potential. We're in conversations with both the owner and the leasehold owner. So by creating additional density there, we're creating value for that property that we can ask for these sessions. Thanks. At the end of the day, we can create potentially on a conservative basis, almost 600 units of housing along the border, mixed income housing, senior housing that allows people to use family homes, age, mixed income in terms of ownership or rental, student housing for graduate students from graduate programs. The amount of tax revenue that we're able to generate, this falls into tax finance. One of the frustrations that I have is that Rhode Island is unique in terms of how it addresses affordable housing. Most states cap out affordable housing at 80% of area need. For home ownership, Rhode Island goes to 120% of area median income. Area median income in Rhode Island is $80,000. That's a 4% increase on what it was in 2019. My expectation is that in 2022, it's going to grow another 4%. 120% of area median income. In 2021, the average home median price for a home is $301,000. At 120% of area median income, what I have a house, you can purchase a house for $336,000, get a subsidy. It's not working. And so I encourage our state legislators to look at how we are addressing this. We're not addressing it the proper way. We can create 600 units of housing without even a state subsidy just because we're making these homes. But we're never going to get to 10% effort.
Guys, yeah. Can I have a couple of questions? When we speak and experience legislation that stalls for 20 years, who's benefiting from this? Because somebody is. Who are the populations? What are the locales that don't want to change this? It has to be benefiting somebody in political power, that block that is controlling this. Because it's been this way. We started in 2001 trying to figure out the definition and how it was going to benefit Warren. We've never been able to get an answer.
So the bigger blocks that are controlling this are from the cities that meet the 10%. Nothing, Providence, Newport, they have the bigger delegations.
So it benefits them the way that it stays?
Actually,
It doesn't hurt them, so they don't really care.
actually, I have a slightly different perspective on this. Having represented towns on affordable housing projects in my private practice, representing affordable housing projects. The biggest difficulty you have, and the reason you have an affordable housing, low to moderate income housing act in the first place, is because the 1991 Enabling Act, the zoning and for planning, favors opponents of development. That's the way it's structured. So the people that support things like this are the Rhode Island Builders Association, affordable housing advocates. On the other side are people that, they don't want to see development. There is a very strong streak in this state that doesn't want to see anything built. The response from the legislature was to say, we're going to make it streamlined and we're going to have a low to moderate income housing act. You don't even have to go to the zoning board. You go straight to the planning board for a comprehensive permit and you're supposed to go right through. The plain fact of the matter is the people that opposed it before, they file their appeals and it's very difficult to get stuff through. That's the difficulty, the frustration. By the way, John's correct, because what you see is the legislators from the urban core are asking for wholesale changes, not for the low to moderate income housing act. What they're really doing is they're taking a look at the Zoning Enabling Act and the Subdivision and Land Development Enabling Act, saying things like get rid of single-family residential zones and things of that nature, so that you can go forward and start developing things like that, which is what Bob is talking about, having a streamlined process. There is a lot of opposition, and the opposition is the people that don't want to see additional development. And by the way, I'm not saying that, they're wrong. There's arguments on that side, bad for the environment. Why are we allowing for this sprawl, all of these things? So that's the tension that you have at the State House over this. The question is the lack of housing, as opposed to people saying that we can't have untrimmed growth. That's what it is.
I mean, the only opportunity we have for any kind of development in Warren right now of any scale is along the Metacom corridor. We don't have those opportunities in the downtown area because the way that the comprehensive permit is set up. We have one infill project next to St. Jean Baptiste, probably going to have another one on Water Street. Good for the developers because they get to have a lot of the dimensional variances waived, lot coverage waived. We get some number of units for affordable. We're not getting ahead, but we're getting good development projects as urban infill projects. We saw with Settlers Green, I mean, that was just the opposite. Somebody taking advantage of the comprehensive. The Metacom corridor, we have the ability to transit oriented development. We have infrastructure there. We have opportunities for development. Can't do that as we don't have water and sewer up there. So this plan makes sense, but again, we're not going to get to the 10% because we're not going to, all that housing, if we did 600 units of housing and 300, we're still not closer to the 10%. We haven't moved the needle one bit.
And if I could just add to that, I just quickly looked up, as of today, we're 277 units short of 10%. But as Bob noted, for every comprehensive permit, it's a 25% affordable requirement, which means that 75% is going to be market, which is going to continuously put you behind. And that's by design. I mean, that's the way, unless you're building 100% affordable projects, as Bob mentioned, you're going to continue to be farther and farther behind, even if you're approving affordable housing developments.
I think that people watching and listening to this, they might not understand what that 10% penalty is. And I know you've mentioned it a number of times, but essentially it means that a developer can come in, and I hate to use the word fast track, but they can get through the process much more quickly and with much more less oversight in a sense, right? To put a project through.
Well, I mean, the form-based code and the 10% aren't necessarily.
No, I'm not connecting the two.
Form-based code is predictable.
Right.
Approval process. I mean, what we're adding to that is we're leveraging that, saying that if you want to take advantage of form-based code, you automatically, or if form-based code, as an example, at Job Lot Plaza said 4 stories maximum. That 4 stories has to include 25%. 30%, 20%. That's what the state says. If you wanted to do 5 stories, we gave you additional density. If you could give us more units for each contribution to our affordable housing. But we're never going to get to the 10% unless we said all the new housing. We don't want to do that.
Well, it's unrealistic.
The scarlet letter for those people that live.
To get to the 10%, we'd have to build a 244 unit high rise right now and just have it all affordable housing.
That's correct.
To answer, excuse me, but to answer Councilman Heckert's question, under Title 45, Chapter 53, when you're under the 10%, developer gets to file a comprehensive permit application. The only time that you can't, in a community where you can't file a comprehensive permit application is if that community is over 10%, like East Providence. So you don't get that affordable treatment. You can build an affordable housing project there, but the town doesn't have to mandate it, and they can go ahead and develop the type of projects that they want to do.
And if I can just add to that, there's also an exemption for communities that have over a certain amount of units of rental housing. So the bigger communities actually aren't bound by the 10%, the bigger cities, because they have over a threshold number of rental units of all incomes. So, a city like Providence is not bound to the 10% because they're exempt.
So I remember, Bob, when you started this quest, 3 years ago, it seems, I tagged on why we're not looking at rent subsidy, rent stabilization or rent control. And at the time, it was like, well, no, it's not even what we want to look at. We had a pandemic. Now we've had changes in the economy. Don't you think it would behoove us to do a double hit at this target? Because we have rents that are going through the roof, market driven, and we have people that can't afford to live here that were born here. And several years ago, when I brought this up, everybody looked at me like I was crazy. It's what kept the working person in Manhattan.
It's a very controversial topic that's come up a lot in a lot of communities. And that's definitely a policy issue that the council would have to make that kind of decision.
Right.
I know it's come up in a lot of the cities, much larger cities do have rent control, places like San Francisco, a lot of the West Coast
Manhattan.
communities. It's exceedingly difficult in an economy like this where inflation is an issue, and the people who own the properties and charge the rent also have to deal with inflation. But again, it's a policy issue. If it's something the council wanted to pursue, certainly, staff could prepare something
Connect
for
with
that.
your conversation and not interrupt your conversation. To play off of what you're saying, it could still be looked at as a 10% goal of affordable housing. So once again, you have a give and take. You are seeing the market drive faster and harder than people who live here can even handle. And the taxes are going up accordingly. The next evaluation, you can have a house tax at 250 now. Next evaluation, you're gonna see it at 280, 320.
Right, and our rate would drop.
Correct.
So that the bill
so
would not
you- So
increase.
you're looking now at a scenario where people are cashing in, and those who can afford to live here and move here, they love it. But there's going to be a tipping point where people are gonna have to sell out in order to simply survive.
I did read today on a national level, rents have increased 17% in the last year. So this is certainly not a Warren
Yeah.
specific issue, but it's a widespread issue.
I think there should be something grandfathered. I think we should look at the policies, whether we enact them or not, or find out that they work to Warren's benefit. To just do nothing right now and watch this whole tidal wave wash us out, I think isn't prudent. I know it's another layer of work for everybody to do, but I don't know. I think it's almost,
I can tell you right now, I'm not interested in going to things like rent control. I don't know about.
well, without any
Other
information in
councils,
front of us,
Yeah.
without any demographics, I can't say that.
I would
don't-
be interested in knowing what it would look like, what type of lift it would be, what it would really mean, and what kind of opportunity it would afford people who have lived here all along, who are current renters, and how it would benefit. I mean, you saying it, it's like, well, gosh, maybe we should have done it a long time ago, but I really don't understand what it would mean to make it happen.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's legal. That's the first.
Exactly.
Well,
Is-
so let me suggest a two-step process here. I don't mind doing some research on rent control to see if it's even legal. That's the first issue. Assuming that it is something that the town can do, I think the next step is you're gonna have to refer it to FUM, fiscal note. See if it is something that can be done. Next question is, can it be done? Perhaps to the manager and the planner too.
Yeah, I don't want to assign them anything until we're sure that it's legal.
Okay. This one time it was legal, pulling off somebody
No.
else.
Well,
Why, you stuck your neck in the guillotine, you know?
There's plenty of examples in other municipalities where the rent control is in place, and I think it's a mixed bag. My little understanding of it is that it's a mixed bag, and how effective it is, and sometimes it's actually counterproductive. So, yeah, I think it should be vetted completely before, and to your point, James, yeah, it's nothing wrong with looking at it and getting information, so we have a full understanding of, what we're.
The second part of what probably want to look at is we will be bringing the draft comprehensive plan to you most likely in September. The housing element of the comprehensive plan is primarily focused on what we are doing in that Medi-Cal corridor. went up for based on talking about, density bonuses. That is another layer of protection, and at least going forward, with development in that corridor, that we are going to ensure that there is guaranteed affordable housing. Again, I'm using that air quotes because workforce housing, affordable, whatever you want to call it. But the opportunity to also leverage funds if somebody, the developer didn't want to give us those units there, that we could look at vacant second and third floors in other areas of the town. That's an advantage. I mean, in that, we are not subject to state formula right now because it's 40% of all of the parent. I mean, that we have that opportunity to do that.
So to be clear, with that 10% minimum requirement, and we are going to have our comprehensive plan affordable housing component passed within the near future, does that give us some working time to sort of address how we're moving in the right direction? Are we in jeopardy of being penalized, or can developers just come in and run roughshod? Like, how do we protect ourselves?
There was some discussion about if communities didn't meet the 10%, that they were going to be penalized, but it's 20, only 6 communities have met that, and one of them is Long Island. So, I'm not sure what that penalty is. And the state as a whole hasn't even met the 10%. I think that we can honestly say that we have a plan to address affordable housing, and this is how we're doing it, and we should not be penalized for that, but I'm not sure what the penalty is. I know that one of the pieces of legislation was that the community wanted to invest itself of a public building. It has to go to the state. They're going to do a feasibility study. They're going to determine whether or not it should be affordable. That doesn't make any sense. National Guard on Wood Street is a public facility. We know that's in the market to Medicom. Should we be spending money to look at whether that should be affordable housing? Makes no sense. There just needs to be a different mindset in Providence in terms of how we address this issue. And should we be counting units that are already in the marketplace that are affordable? The deed restricted portion makes this very difficult. The developers are not going to do development that are 30% of the very median income. They're not going to do that. They're just not going to do it. But developers will do projects that get people to 120% of their median income. That's
I have another related question, if I could. Should we put another agenda item next month on petitioning DOT to change the 4 lanes to at least the turn lane? Paint, we're asking them to buy paint.
Medicom.
Yes.
They've reached out to us that, initially they pushed back on that being a 3-lane road. They have actually come back to us and they are doing a road diet study now.
We had a study 18 years ago on the Medicom Avenue corridor.
You can certainly put a request in, but they haven't reached out to us proactively, but they're.
The 4 lanes to 2 is just ridiculous. It's a highway, it's just chaotic.
It's going to be 4 to 3.
Right. Well, I mean, I look at the center as a turn lane, not as a driving lane. We should.
So
Yeah, we do. There was an excellent study done prior to my time here. And we have delivered copies of that to DOT. So hopefully it makes their process easier because really all the hard work's been done. So explain why that should be done. When I started here and that plan had just been completed, DOT had an arbitrary cutoff number for trips per day.
Right.
And if you had more than X number of traffic trips per day, they wouldn't consider it. They've changed their philosophy a bit.
And how did our neighboring town to the south qualify, and yet the same road they're driving on, we hit that number wrong? I don't get it.
Yeah. That is a good question.
So on this part, I guess we're gonna ask the solicitor to put it in, to do some research to number 1, is it legal? The other thing I'd like to know, are there any other communities in Rhode Island that have any type of rent? come back to us next month and we'll go from there. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's to educate ourselves.
Well, and I don't want to put the staff through all that work. If he comes back and says they can't do it and they spend
Right, absolutely.
40 hours researching it,
Yeah.
we just wasted all their time.
So now what, Bob?
We keep doing what we're doing. We keep doing it.
Great.
We are moving forward with the Markets Metacom plan. There's many elements to it. At least once a week, we're getting contact from people around the country to talk about it. And the more we can educate people to the various components of it. It's climate change in one piece, it's economic development in another piece, the housing piece, I think. There are people at the state level that recognize that we are very forward thinking in this work. The most critical step for us right now is to get a comprehensive plan, both by you and statewide planning, and then we can make the zone changes that we need to make. Our goal is to have all that complete by the end of this calendar.
And then once that's all in place, then you start talking to developers.
So we're having conversations with developers now, but we can't pull the trigger on anything until that moves on. And they put money back.
Can you get a sense from developers if they're interested in what is being presented?
Every
Developer that I've talked to, you as the town are making this happen. There'll be floodgates open.
That's good to hear.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, it's from the town manager, and it's discussion and action regarding the appropriation of the opioid litigation funds. Okay, morning.
So as you know, that there's been certain aspects of the opioid litigation that have settled through the state's attorney general's office. And as a result, we recently received a check in the amount of $7,946.46, which is something. You'll see in the chart that I submitted that it's maybe not as much as others have received, but it is a significant amount of money for us. So what I would like to request from the council is that we have permission to deposit these funds into a restricted account for use in accordance with the terms and conditions of the settlement, and with a specific set aside of $2,500 for the 2022 Candlelight Vigil that is scheduled for August 31st at 6 p.m. With the Warren Prevention Coalition.
Have a motion? Any questions?
I do have one. Can you remind us why we've gotten so little from this when Barrington is receiving over $131,000 and Bristol is receiving over $61,000? It seems
It is a punishment.
unfair. I'm not sure what's generating that number.
It is a punishment for being frugal. It's a nationwide formula that's been applied by the settlement attorneys. And there's several factors that go into it. One of the factors was the amount of prescription pills that were prescribed in the community legally. And then other aspects of it are what were spent on fire department expenses and actually legal expenses, town solicitor expenses. And it was for, I believe, the year 2006 is what they used for the year that they looked at to apply the formula. So
Legal costs are so low compared to the other two communities that actually ended up hurting you. Secondly, the fact that you have the volunteer fire department, that ended up hurting you. Also, the fact that expenditures here for schools, because you got, the money in the state and everything else, you're paying less than the Barrington in particular. That ended up hurting you. The formula that they used had absolutely nothing to do with what was done because of the opioid crisis. It went to other governmental spending factors. The fact that you have been prudent, Kate's correct, prudent with your money, ended up hurting you here.
So it's not based on need in the least
Absolutely
bit.
not.
Thanks.
Exactly correct. It's not based on the actual experience that the town had, the opioid epidemic. It went to other factors, other governmental spending factors, which to me are remote legal costs. I don't know how that goes in. I don't. But anyway, that's the frustration. Myself and other solicitors in similarly situated communities expressed that to the lawyers, but it did not penetrate.
And I'll just add one thing, that this represents 20% of the settlement funds. 20% of the funds that were received by the state of Rhode Island are being distributed in this way through to the municipalities. The other 80% is being held by the state of Rhode Island to be distributed in a manner to be determined. And there's an advisory committee that's been convened to make recommendations to the Office of Health and Human Services as to how those additional 80% of the funds should be distributed. So I'm the Bristol County representative for that group. So we've had, I think, 3 meetings so far, and we're starting to get into potential uses for those funds. But certainly it's my goal to make sure that those funds actually go towards impacted people and communities, and is not based on some formula of meaning that the more affluent communities receive more money, because in my mind, that's counterintuitive.
Exit, they got $409.
They actually lost money because they had to spend money for legal counsel for the settlement. So they actually got negative money.
Buy them a pizza.
So they all voted as we did to participate in the class action, and it ended up costing them money. That's just ludicrous.
So it's encouraging to hear that there's 80% more that could be adjusted correctly.
It's encouraging. It's also a little frightening because there's a lot of requests for that money. And it's my main concern as a member of that committee is to make sure that there's an actual impact and that the money doesn't get spread out so thin that you don't actually see any
Probably the same
impact.
people that sit on the affordable housing.
It's a very big committee.
Looking at the numbers they got, it seems very compatible.
Okay, can we have a motion to deposit the funds as requested by the town manager and to spend the $2,500 for the 2022 candlelight vigil?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the solicitor request for executive session.
That is in regard to the lawsuit Pereira versus Warren, CA number PC 2022-007723. This is just an informational meeting. I want to give you an update on the status of the case.
Okay, can we have a motion for executive session?
Make a motion that we go into executive session per the town solicitor's request.
We have a motion and a second. We will do a roll call vote. Councilor Cronin,
Aye.
Hecker,
Aye.
Councilor Di Pasquale.
Aye.
I vote aye. Vice
Aye.
President Calenda, aye. Okay. We'll all be in executive session after the regularly scheduled meeting. Next, we have the finance director, revenues and expenditures, which was emailed to us.
Evening. How are you?
Do we have any questions from the council on the revenues and expenditures?
You took the words out of my mouth.
Any
Nope, I have none.
questions?
No?
All right. We have June in front of us, so that leads us to the budget reallocation. Do you have a copy of that?
Yes.
Any question?
No.
Are we taking these actions tonight?
On the budget reallocation?
Yes.
Do you want to shift some around that, or you just want to approve the ones that she's recommended?
Well, we have to, I mean, it's an action that I think that we actually have to take. We have to.
Correct, yeah, we need to vote to reallocate these funds. Yeah.
But we've got number
Yeah,
two
I-
first.
Well, she skipped number 2. We'll go back to number 2. The human resource officer.
Oh, okay,
We'll
sorry.
go back to that. We'll do the budget one. So yeah, we need to pass these to reallocate. Do we have a motion to reallocate the funds as presented by the finance director?
Well, we have the account numbers, but I don't know what these are. So like for the first one, it's a shared service insurance.
Right.
I think, and that's usually we would get an explanation of what it is, where we're finding the funds to fill, and
Yep, so the left column, the from column is the account that the money would come out of, and the to column is the account that's needs the
That is
reallocation.
our shared service insurance. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing any of these.
Right, so for example, for the first item, there would be 25,370.12 taken from the insurance line item and transferred to, not transferred, but reallocated to the attendance premium line item. And then,
And so on and so on.
and so on and so on, yes. So that, there's no net change to the budget. This is just reallocation of line items within the budget.
Are there any explanations needed for any of this, under and overs?
Because they
Yeah,
are,
the tipping fees one, is that like, is that a sort of a red flag for things to come?
This is closing out the budget.
Right,
Yeah,
so,
this, because we're in a new fiscal year, so this is to close out last year's budget.
right.
Right, but
Right,
that means
but
we
if
didn't
you-
allocate enough funds for
Correct.
the transfer station, so.
We did have increased waste disposal, and it's been increased since the onset of COVID. It's gotten better recently. Seems like the numbers are coming back down, and Brian has been working closely with Rhode Island Resource Recovery on, they are going to have new requirements through their permitting process to allow us to dump, so that is in process. They are getting much more strict now that the closure of the state landfill is on the horizon.
Is it still 2038?
I don't think it's that far away. Not sure.
All right, so I guess we could just do all these in one motion. Motion to, Mr. DeSisto, one motion. Motion to have the budget reallocations from accounts on the left to the accounts on the right.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to the discussion and action on the job description. Do you want to speak to that, or want Kate to speak to that?
just become, as hiring.
Sure. I work closely with Fung on this. As we discussed during the budget process, we were seeking to convert the accountant position, which is currently vacant, to a part-time human resource position. Fung was of the opinion that this would be a greater assistance to her in the office and would fill the current needs that we have. Obviously, human resources has gotten increasingly complicated. As time goes on, there are new rules that we need to be aware of and new things that we need to comply with. And this position would really assist her office and my office in making sure that we're compliant with everything, and would assist us in the hiring process and the documentation of employee benefits and reporting.
And this is already, this was a budget item that we approved already.
Correct.
I didn't see a cost associated with this.
Yeah, it's in the budget. I can't remember the exact amount. It was the same. It was
It was the part-time.
right.
Yes.
It's in the range of 45,000, I believe.
Taking that salary and applying it to this position.
Right. So this would be a part-time salaried position. There would not be benefits offered as a part-time position, but we're hoping we could be flexible with their schedule. I mean, they would have to have a set schedule, but we could be flexible in what that set schedule is. And we're hoping, we need someone with some considerable experience, because this is not a starter job for someone. This is,
This isn't too much of a detailed request.
This is
Or-
common in
Yeah.
human resource position.
we looked
Joe.
at a number of other Rhode Island
Yeah.
communities to make sure we were in line with their job descriptions.
We're asking a lot.
We are.
Can always amend it if it's too hard to find somebody.
Yeah, exactly. If we don't find a good candidate, we will be back to see you. We'll be back to see you anyway, because you would need to ratify the appointment.
I was
That's what I
more
do.
surprised in the physical demands listing myself.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the human resource job description. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm
Opposed? Okay. Next, we have recreation. First on the agenda is the contract with Addispace for the restrooms at the Pete Seppi Pavilion.
Yes, so the first is the contract for that space. It's 82,500. And I believe you have the drawings, so the sketches of that in your packet. Does anybody have any questions?
The other day. Council.
It would be 3 bathrooms. So it would be 3 additional bathrooms for that location.
Where's the location gonna be?
Volleyball area?
No,
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 not-
no, it's like where the mulch area is, so.
Towards Asylum?
So if you're looking at the bathrooms, it's gonna be on your left.
Oh, okay.
So the playground would be here, the pavilion's here, the bathrooms would be here.
To the left of the current bathrooms,
Correct,
if you're facing the bathroom.
correct.
How,
Thank you.
how far away, like steps away?
No, they would
Path.
be in the mulched area where like where that big rock is. So it would be, you would still have a good pathway between the bathrooms and the pavilion.
Can we make a pathway? I mean, I've been asking for like, Eric, when we have the bakes there, it's all mud. That whole area just gets washed out. It's horrible. Can we put a concrete walkway in this, or permeable so that it drains? But we're gonna be accessing people over to that area.
Yeah.
We can't keep living with this. These guys wear boots at it, for God's sakes. Really?
I'm not sure that we can do concrete, but we could certainly look at another
Pavers,
durable.
just something, so you're not standing in mud.
material.
Bluestone.
Doing what you're designed there to do, and then it just turns into a mess. Thank you.
So.
All I need is bathrooms tonight, though.
Okay, yeah, I was just
No.
gonna say- I was just gonna
I
say,
want
back to
Pete
the
to get
agenda,
to the
back to the
bathroom.
agenda item. Do we have any other questions on the new bathrooms, the contract for the bathrooms at the Pete Septic Pavilion? Can we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the Pizza Pavilion in the amount of $82,500 from the capital account
What's the-
01, I'm sorry.
Good.
Oh, yep. Capital account 01-010-11-11-0008.
Discussion. What's the exterior look?
The exterior look for this would just be the container.
So has there been any, have you gotten any comments or?
I have not,
Anything, nothing like?
not for that facility.
Not for that facility, okay. Just because, I mean,
And the facility that's already at the pavilion is a concrete structure. So it would be painted, it would be, I think it would be the same. And the one up at the top is also a concrete structure. It's a cinder block structure.
okay.
I guess we'll find out.
We got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So my second request is because we have only budgeted 67,000 in the current budget for this project. I would like to reallocate some funding that we already have in the recreation budget to this project. So right now, we really can't do the outdoor fitness center because we need to look at the drainage issue at Veterans Fields. That needs to be revisited before we can even look at putting any other structures or facilities at Veterans Field. So I would like to take the 15,000 that we have allocated for that and put it towards this project. And then the other lines are just money that's been left over from other projects that we've done.
Motion to approve.
Now, motion to reallocate the funds as presented by the
Second.
rec director. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have planning and community development. How'd you get on the agenda twice this week?
Just lucky, huh?
Right, right.
Hmm.
Jointly, this with. As you know, we were able to get a congressional directed earmark dollars for rescue of firefighter ones. Council had appropriated $1 million for that facility, and we also allocated some ARPA money we need to make some decisions as to if we're going to move forward with that project, where that's going to go. In order to access the congressional earmark, we're required to do an initial engineering feasibility study, which means that we have to identify a location that is certified as suitable. There is also funding available now through a partnership between corporate group and governor's office for technical assistance for additional federal funding that we think we're eligible, that we can get this preliminary engineering done at no cost to the town. But we're at a point now where we need to make a decision as to what that location is and where we're going to move forward. Both that is the challenge here, but I think, Chief, this is showing where rescue stations are.
That's correct. That's showing the fire stations, and in blue is the current rescue station. And the two with the black arrow are showing the two that would move to the new location, one being the rescue station and the current engine 5. Move their apparatus to the new location.
Could you just physically say the locations, the streets and everything, because it's really hard to see from here what it is.
So
So,
the Miller Street is where the rescue station is, right at Miller Street.
okay,
Okay. And engine 5 is at Metacom and Child, right behind the corner store.
so those two facilities would be decommissioned?
No, they would just be moved to the new proposed location of Serpentine and Kickamuit behind Bristol County Water.
But where their existing location, the
Yes.
Miller and the Metacom, those would no
Correct. We
longer
would not need them anymore.
be, and, okay. And those properties would become,
Available.
Whatever, yeah, town chooses.
okay. Affordable housing? DPW guy to the rescue.
So this is the location that we have identified in terms of the proposed location, which is on the corner of 15.
Kickamuit, correct, right behind Bristol County
Behind
Water.
Bristol County Water.
Snow Park.
It's now park. Bristol County Water has additional land for site of this. We've had some preliminary conversations with them about perhaps taking some of their additional land. Previously, you had authorized us to enter into an option agreement to look at another parcel a little bit to the west of this. We did that. Back to be unsuitable. We were able to get our money back. Expensive engineering, but there were inland wetlands issues there, so that was not suitable. And that was only for the purposes of, if we acquired that property, we would have land swapped that with Bristol County Water. But the Bristol County Water is still open to having conversations with us if we have to acquire a portion of their land. Initially, they thought that they couldn't do that because they took that property as a taking, and some of the language in that taking said that it had to be for the purpose. We feel that Mr. Obviously, that rescue station, fire headquarters, sufficient public purpose.
And this map is showing that proposed location, and we just drew a circle out, stopping at 2 points, actually 2 closest points for town lines, one being Lambert Lane, right at the Market Street, and the other at Hanley Farm down off of Main Street. So I just stopped at that circumference and to show the general central location of town, as central as we could get, and hit as much of the town as possible with the rescue response time in mind. Moving the rescue from Miller Street to that location makes it easier to get out and get to the town in a whole in a reasonable amount of time. That's pretty much all that slide is showing.
This is if a homeowner in that area wanted to sell, would they contact the town, or would the town be looking at, I mean, there's some houses that are right on that road. And they may or may not want to live the road before it was the park with the rescue there. Is that something we should entertain? But also vice versa. Do we want to have 4 houses right in front of this facility versus if they're not there and purchased? How do you start that process? Did I just? Has anybody thought about those 3 or 4
This-
houses that are right there?
Well, this approval tonight would show the design that works for this location. And in my mind, the station would be facing more towards the reservoir, not towards those homes. We'll see what the architect come up with the best option for that property. Then that's a conversation we can have after to say, hey, look, this has to point at these homes in that neighborhood on Kickanew. Then we can.
Well, I'm just thinking of, call going out, the siren happening.
Yep.
I would think it would be in their best interest to let them understand this process is happening now, sooner rather than later, so that it could be incorporated in our design.
Right, I mean, again,
If they're willing to,
the initial feasibility, the lands,
After we get that, then we can approach them
I
or.
mean, it's still different than
Yeah.
the people on Illustrator act now.
Right. But I mean, if we don't want to approach, we don't want to buy their property until the study comes back and says we can have it.
correct, I'm not saying we do it before, but I just know that historically, that station has been there for 150 years. Putting in something new, I think it would just be a good,
This slide, the chief has shown what the current response times are for the current stations.
Right, so you can see the 3 circles there. It's, it's not my strong point, but tried to do the best. So the pink is the same circle you saw earlier as a proposed location. The blue is a current location, and these circumferences are all the same, just to show the difference. It moves from different parts of town. And the third, the green that's kind of tinted in the background, you can see that comes out through the top, was another location that was, suggested to look at out in the Market Street area. And just showing some times, using the current location of Miller Street to, let's say, Emery Road, out the end of Tuasit, 5.5 miles is about 16 minutes from that location. Serpentine Road location would be 4.4 miles in about 11 minutes. Taking that same Miller Street, I use Lambert Lane as a 6-minute distance, and from Serpentine is also 6 minutes. There's not much difference between the 2 spaces there. And Hanley Farm from Miller Street is 5 minutes. It would only increase to about 7 minutes from the proposed location. Not only travel times of what we looked at in this is being able to get the volunteers to the station to get the trucks out, our current structure, to get the members of Engine 5 into the truck, or, hopefully we'd have 2 rescues manned at this station, be able to get the second call, be able to get the members to this station to respond to the second rescue call. So, and to have many avenues out from that location, not always be in that same path of travel with the siren. The siren can be controlled with procedures. Do not use sirens till you get past this point when needed. That's stuff that could be controlled with neighbors and concerns. So that's pretty much just trying to show the different, it's a small town, so there wasn't much change, but to get to that location, it does give a nice equal response time throughout the town, fire and rescue. And that's the same, just showing 2, the proposed and the current. So that's just the same as the previous slide. We do have the Board of Fire Engineers here with us tonight, who's worked with me on all this, work together. We have been, as you suggested at past meetings, trying to think of other locations, and for the reasons we just discussed, this location seems to fit. Came up short, just trying to find and help that met all that criteria.
Any other questions for the chief? So Anthony, so we need action to allow them to proceed with the site feasibility? Okay, so I guess we need a motion to.
motion to proceed with the site feasibility for the rescue.
We have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Next, we have update on improvements along the East Bay Bike Path.
Looks better than asked for this, because, last month, installation of sculpture at the Dell site. Brian and I walked that site today. Had a local Girl Scout that had raised funds to purchase a solar charging bench. So we're going to move forward with some improvements to that location, as well as Warren Park's walkway between Child Street and Marcus Street. We had gotten a grant from Commerce for $1,000. We have some funding to address this. Plus, I got additional funding taken outside. Perhaps the scope is going to be something less than we had initially anticipated, but I think in both areas, we can make some short-term improvements that are going to make them more accessible and active. Looking at lighting, reallocating benches, perhaps redoing that whole, removing a lot of brick in that walkway area, and establishing some more real concept. Stroud Street.
So will you be referring back to, or is this sort of a jumping off point from the plan that we got in 2019?
There'll be a modification to that. And that plan had not anticipated anything with government walkway.
Right.
But I think we can do.
So thank you for the update, and I think it's important. People have asked me whatever happened because the Union Studios did an actual plan, and there was engineering done. So we had a plan in place, and obviously the costs were prohibitive. The bids we got at that time, we had to reject. But I think incrementally we can move forward here and take advantage of this portion of the bike path, enhance it so that thousands of people traveling through there every year understand where they are and why they might want to stop and maybe meander up to Main Street. And it's kind of like low-hanging fruit for us to enhance and take advantage of, I think.
Fortunately, we were denied look at it today, evil beings that are large enough that work the detail actually do. Say that will want money in our that whole location is.
Yeah, if I could. This may come across as a criticism, and if it is, I apologize up front. I love doing more things. I'm very, very, very concerned. The amount of weeds, sand on sidewalks, trees that are growing in the way. I've sent the list a dozen times. I'm not that interested in expanding more things right now. This is just another, let's make something nice. We need to focus on what we have. I'm in favor of expanding, but we really need to step it up. I don't care if we need overtime budget. We gotta do something. It's just, I walk the streets, I run the streets. To talk about an alley over there, that's great. After we've done what we need to do here in town. And it is a criticism because I've been patient. I've been sending out dozens of requests, specific locations, pictures. I know that they're getting there. We need to have personnel taken and assigned these projects. I get complaints daily. I get people calling me, and I just put down the phone and listen while I'm doing whatever I'm doing, and they just rattle off. We've got bushes that are privately grown on sidewalks, and this isn't necessarily a complaint of your job performance. It's just a complaint in regards to how these things start impacting me psychologically and listening to people who love coming here, but then kind of feel like we're a bit overgrown right now. And I would like to see some immediate responses to those problems. And we've watched the budget carefully. And if we need to do some overtime, I think all of us here would feel that you have to spend a little money for housekeeping. And I just, it might be not the perfect time and place, but it just felt to me that I just had to address the fact that we need to clean up a little bit better what we have.
And if I might, I can say that I do know that Mr. Wheeler offers overtime on a regular basis, and sometimes it is accepted and sometimes it is not. And we have no ability to order back anyone to require them to do overtime. So that's a challenge that he has that we can address in the next contract perhaps, but as under the current contract, we cannot require anyone to accept overtime. He would like nothing better, I know, because we've had the conversations. He would like nothing better than to give more overtime and get more of these projects done in a quick, timely manner, but his hands are tied to some extent.
And I am off topic and I apologize.
Specifically,
But I mean, because I hear myself now when you
with respect to the art walkway.
It just does.
Yeah, let's get back on the
It's got weeds growing.
agenda.
That's an area.
That's what I'm-
Parking lot.
that's what-
Brian and I talked about, let's get rid of most. Take that brick out for papers. That is one area that is highly, that is like.
It's just overgrown and that's what kind of made it stand out in my head.
And to Bob's point, I think the goal is to create a low maintenance landscape. Things that do not require intense landscaping because we do not have a large staff and we will probably not have a large staff in the near future because we have budget limitations. So the more we can take the existing landscape and make it more efficient and lower maintenance requirements, the more we can take that time and address other things that do need to be done.
Well, I have to respond and say that I understand Councilman Di Pasquale's frustration. I sense it as well, and I think we all do. But I don't think this is an either or situation that one includes the other. I think we should be striving to improve parts of our town, especially this one in particular. You talk to anybody about it and they'd agree that it's a golden opportunity. And I don't think we should pass it up in lieu of, doing other projects. I don't agree. So we'll have to disagree on this
We're
one.
not disagreeing. I have no problem improving.
Well, you
something
said you don't
I'm
want,
pointing
you said you don't want to be looking at this when, we have weeds growing, but I think that
I'm looking
we should
at-
be able to do both things.
Correct.
So,
I'm looking at
that's my
weeds.
position here.
Weeds growing in
Yeah,
the
this
area
is-
you're talking about brings out the
This
frustration.
is just an update to the project over there. So let's
Yes, thank you.
let's stay on the agenda before Mr. Solicitor gets a little bit upset. Okay, is that the end of that
That's it.
presentation, Bob?
Yeah, and then
Okay.
the last item is.
The Global Technologies battery
Exactly.
storage.
So we were
Yep.
approached by a company that is in renewable energy spectrum. They like to look at the feasibility of doing battery storage at the wastewater treatment plant. This is simply to allow them to, an initial feasibility study, there's no cost obligations. Now, if they were to go forward with this, that would result in a lease payment to the town on an annual basis. The solicitor has looked at the agreement, there are some changes that we need to make. But, just looking to allow them to.
Okay, do we have any questions from the council on this?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the.
Second.
Subject to the solicitor's
Motion to
approval.
approve contingent upon approval by the solicitor.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Last on the agenda, we have town clerk. Discussion and action authorizing the town council president to sign the contract with Clerk Base. Andy, this is just the yearly thing. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are going into executive session. And now, can I have a motion to seal the minutes?
A motion to send them.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Now a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Proceed.